finals. Now it's time for semi-final number one, the Ream, Alistair Overeem.
Semi-final contest number one. Making his entrance from the blue stage, he is Alistair Overeem.
In 1 minute and 2 seconds. Let's see if Butter or Overeem can break Ertz's record of 1 minute and 2 for a semi-final win.
And now making his entrance from the red stage, Butter Hari.
Kogan, you and I are sweating more than Butter Hari. We're a little bit nervous for him. I know we're both a little bit Brokeback Mountain for Butter Hari, but my word, just look how imposing the Ream is up in centre ring as the bad boy, the golden boy Butter Hari makes his way.
Well, the thing is, you know, with each fight that Alistair wins, he's just proven more and more that, you know, he really does belong here in the K1. I mean, we're talking, he knocked out Butter Hari. He had a controversial close fight with Remy. I mean, he didn't get knocked down, but outside of that, you know, he was holding his own, and he beat Peter Hart. He just brutally knocked out Everton Teixeira. I mean,
Butter Hari to take on the hulking Alistair Overeem. Butter Hari knocked out Ruslan Karayev in just 38 seconds. So his quarterfinal victory was quicker than Overeem's quarterfinal victory over Everton Teixeira. Mike Passadilla, Melvin Manoff in the corner. Mike's gym for Butter Hari. Let's go up to Michael Buffer.
Semi-final match number one. K1 rules apply. 3-minute rounds. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, he is Alistair, the Hyper Dutch Cyclone Overeem. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, Butter Golden Boy Hari.
Butter Hari, who's got his brother and his cousin here with him. Mike Passadilla, the final instructions in Butter's corner. Look at the sellout crowd here at the Yokohama Arena, 20,000 plus. We are going broadcast to over 100 countries. The biggest fight event on the planet, the Fields K1 World Grand Prix. As center referee calls both men in for the final instructions. Last year at Dynamite, Alistair Overeem, under K1 rules, knocked out Butter Hari in one round. Butter Hari, Alistair Overeem, a stare down like no other. These men do not like each other. It is ready to explode here in center ring. The fight the world has been waiting for is finally happening. Nobody thinks it'll go the distance. Few people think it'll get out of the first round. Butter yesterday at the press conference said to Alistair, if I meet you in the semis, I promise you will not last 3 minutes with me. Michael Chavallo, Ray Sefo, and Mike Kogan with you. Who will draw first blood? It's Butter Hari. And Alistair manhandles him, throws him to the canvas. Hari's got to maintain his composure. He's got to keep his cool. He cannot afford a brain explosion like in last year's final against Remy Bonjaski. There's the right hand from Butter.
I see Butter box a little bit more. Use that jab a little bit. There you go.
And again, Overeem, double underhook here. And the referee moved in.
Now he's going to keep his chin down as he comes forward.
Overeem is just an absolute monster. I mean, you can just see the ease with which he dropped him to the ground.
Butter hasn't slung the legs yet, which surprises me. Overeem, gut-munching knee, and Butter returns the favor. The tension in here, you could cut it with an electric toothbrush. It is electrifying. Body shots, body rip again from Hurry off the right hand. And Alistair setting himself. Checks the low kick, Alistair, body shot from Butter. The one he used to knock out Zabik Samadov in one round in the final 16.
Like to see Butter actually go for an uppercut. Throw that jab down center fast, come back with the uppercut.
Go in his corner, man.
Right hand from Overeem, and he throws him into the turnbuckle, wrestling style.
The referee needs to step in and stop this because
The referee's scared to step in there.
Oh, he's tagged him! He's tagged him!
That's what I'm talking about.
This place has gone bananas!
Butter's got to be patient. Butter's got to be patient. Now work up that jab.
Can Butter finish him? One more knockdown and it's over! One more knockdown and it's over! Here comes Hurry!
Be
Here
patient.
comes Hurry! Go Butter! Go you crazy bastard! Go Butter!
He's got to be patient. He's got to be patient. Butter needs to be patient. Go back to jab. Basic stuff. Keep it basic.
This is incredible, 55 seconds to go! Butter goes to the body!
Uppercut, uppercut.
There's the right hand! Oh, it's over! It's over!
Yes.
It's over! It's over! Butter Hurry has beaten him! He has beaten him! Mike Kagan, pound it! Brother Ray, pound it! Butter Hurry has done it! Butter Hurry has stopped Ubering!
Wow.
Ask a lot of people, have you been to the Middle East? And they'll say, oh yeah, Dubai. Been shopping there, been on holiday there. It's brash, it's flashy, it's successful, but there's a lot going on beneath the surface in Dubai that we don't necessarily see. It's often described as being oil rich. It isn't. Less than 5% of its GDP comes from oil. It's got a bit of gas, but it essentially has made its success through diversifying into property, real estate, aviation, trade, banking, finance. There are still people alive today who can remember the old Dubai, pre-boom Dubai, when it was low-rise, where it was really just a port on the Gulf. Today, it's absolutely brimming with skyscrapers, nearly 200 of them. People often say it is the city of cranes. It's home to the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, at 830 meters. And this transformation happened really in the space of one generation, largely thanks to the ambition of the previous ruler, Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum, who developed Dubai from being just a transit stop into a destination. His son, Sheikh Mohammed, the current ruler, then accelerated that development. One of the problems that sometimes happens in Dubai is that people get lured into perhaps a false sense of relaxation. You've got beaches, bars, nightclubs, alcohol is freely available there, and yet the actual rule of law of the place is quite strict and conservative. There is no freedom of expression at all there. You voice anything against the government, you put out a tweet that they don't like, and you're in real trouble. There are many, many cases of Westerners taking a wrong turn, getting arrested, and finding themselves in trouble. Like they'll drink a glass of wine publicly on the street, or they'll embrace and kiss a member of the opposite sex. In 2018, there was a British PhD student who was doing a doctorate on security in the UAE. He was arrested and accused of spying. He was eventually released, but not until after 5 months in solitary confinement. There is a paradox between the public face of Dubai, which is incredibly welcoming, very relaxed, and a lot of alleged human rights abuses. One of the most contentious issues about not just Dubai but all the Gulf Arab states is the cheap manual labor that is hired in thousands. And these people tend to be coming from the South Asian continent. Often they are cheated out of their wages, out of the full amount of wages. They're held in terrible conditions in many cases. There's been a lot of documentation about this. So legally, the federal UAE laws are very strict on this, but in practice, these laws are often flouted. Dubai is, there's no question about it, a massive player on the global stage in terms of human development and of innovation, of green biotech, of electronics, of travel, of aviation. So it's a force to be reckoned with. It sometimes overreaches itself, and there will be large areas of real estate that are only half built and get abandoned. But it takes risks, and so far I think most people would say it's probably paid off.
Dubai, the most luxurious place in the world. Just 50 years ago, Dubai was merely a small town in the middle of the desert. Today, Dubai serves as the luxurious face of the Middle East and the biggest attraction that part of the world has to offer. Undoubtedly, you've seen photos of the Burj Al Arab Hotel, the crescent-shaped skyscraper built on a man-made island. You also probably know that Dubai is home to the world's tallest building, and you might have even seen Tom Cruise scaling it in an installment of the Mission Impossible franchise. That building is called the Burj Khalifa, and it stands 2,722 feet high. Yes, I'm sure you know a bit about the attractions of this amazing city, but today I'd love to get the chance to tell you so much more. So, here's all the over-the-top, wildly expensive things you can find in Dubai. But first, a tiny history lesson. How did Dubai go from being just a small desert town to the extravagant oasis it is today? The same way all of the other United Arab Emirates cities became so rich. Oil. Abu Dhabi, just 90 miles from Dubai, is the richest city in the world, and it sits on 10% of the entire world's oil supply. This production of oil launched the United Arab Emirates into the first world. Millions were poured into Dubai, and it became one of the biggest cities in the Middle East. However, today, Dubai only makes 5% of its revenue from oil, because its reserves aren't nearly as lucrative as some of its UAE neighbors. Dubai makes the majority of its revenue from trade, real estate, and tourism. Dubai has become the business center of the UAE since it can no longer rely on oil production alone. But this adjustment has not discouraged this incredibly rich city from growing. Dubai is growing in population just as much as it's growing vertically. In fact, about 1/4 of all cranes are located in Dubai. That's right, about 25% of cranes in existence are in just one UAE city. It seems the game plan of Dubai is just to keep building skyscrapers. Two of these skyscrapers are the aforementioned Burj Khalifa and the Burj Al Arab Hotel. The Burj Khalifa stands more than half a mile tall. It's so tall, in fact, that at its upper floors, the building can sway several feet at the mercy of the wind. This, however, was not overlooked by the architects of this massive building. The Burj Khalifa was designed in such a way that the sway would be too slow for the vestibular system in the inner ear to even notice. That's the part of the ear that provides balance if you happen to be unburdened by interference. The Burj Al Arab is a beautiful 5-star hotel, just hundreds of feet off the land. The Al Arab is the 5th largest hotel in the world, thanks to its unique shape. The hotel stands 56 stories high. It is officially labeled as a 5-star hotel, but some have dubbed this stunning building with the highest remark of 7 stars. This 7-star label is up for debate, as the authority on the matter of luxury hotels has not been agreed upon. But 7-star or not, this hotel is truly magnificent. If you want to spend a night in the royal suite at the Al Arab, it'll cost you just over $24,000. The interior of the Burj Al Arab is adorned with around 1,790 square meters of 24-karat gold leaf. But even that can't touch the glorious views of the immaculate city and the picture-perfect Gulf. Along with extremely tall buildings, the city is keen on building man-made islands. Both the Palm Islands and the World Islands are two incredibly ambitious projects that came to fruition with the help of a whole lot of cash. The construction of the Palm Islands not only cost $12 billion to build, but it also required 94 million cubic meters of sand. To put that into perspective, 94 million cubic meters of sand could fill the entire Empire State Building 2.5 times. The World Islands, as in the man-made islands that mimic the shape of the world's landmasses, took 321 million cubic meters of sand. Theodore, if you could just edit in 9 Empire State Buildings. Which also adds another $15 billion to the cost of man-made islands in Dubai. I'm not much of a big fan of sand in the first place, as it's rough, coarse, and it gets everywhere. Nevertheless, I did enjoy my time at the Palm Island. Like I've always said, nothing exfoliates quite like the warm water of the Persian Gulf. But that's enough talk about man-made islands, huh? Let's move on to the police force. Now, law enforcement isn't usually something that comes to mind when speaking in terms of luxury. But it sure is in Dubai. As a means of wooing the tourists, Dubai's police force uses supercars as their patrol vehicles. This includes cars such as the Ferrari FF that goes for around $500,000, the Lamborghini Aventador that goes for around $400,000, and my personal favorite, an Aston Martin 177 for the reasonable price of $1.79 million. Trust me when I say this, nothing makes a man feel more like James Bond than flooring an Aston Martin 177. Ooh, makes me want to take mine out for a spin right now. Anyway, using these spectacular cars is just Dubai being Dubai. But hey, Dubai is the 8th safest city in the world, so more power to them. This isn't all due to the supercars, of course. The UAE, in general, has rather strict laws. Due to the Islamic constitutional monarchies that operate the Emirates government, some Sharia laws exist in Dubai as well. So if you're on vacation with your missus, checking out the bougie police force, make sure the two of you don't get caught smooching, because it might just get you deported. However, due to the extremely high amount of tourism, some places in Dubai are much more lenient. The serving of alcohol, for instance, would not be permitted in a traditional Middle Eastern setting. But it is in Dubai, in specific institutions such as hotels and clubs. It is actually estimated that around 15% of Dubai's population are Emiratis, while the other 85% are from out of town. About half of the population is composed of the workers building hundreds of skyscrapers, which does make a little bit of sense considering the whole crane situation. Most of these workers are from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which brings us to the more unfortunate side of Dubai. The class divide is quite big. Many of the immigrant workers live and work in less than ideal conditions, while Emiratis and the upper-class foreigners earn extremely attractive salaries. There really isn't much of a middle ground between the class divide in Dubai. But just like any country divided, there's always a sport to bring the people together. Well, that's the idea anyway. And in this case, this sport is camel racing. It's a bit of a sore subject for me, considering back in '96 I lost about 500,000 in a camel race to some sheik in Sharjah. But that was a different time. Camel racing in Dubai is almost equivalent to American football in the US. And Dubai's twist on the sport is that instead of children jockeys, they've began to use robots. You see, camel racing has a bit of a dark past. It used to be the case that small children would be forced to ride the camels, and that led to human trafficking. In less progressed areas in the Middle East, it still happens. But in Dubai, the children have been replaced with robots. And believe it or not, some of these little bots can cost up to $10,000. The camel that lost me that 500 grand was steered by a monkey. Now let's just move on from camel racing. In the future, Dubai has some rather insane plans in the works. Dubai is planning to build a completely climate-controlled area of the city that spans 4.3 miles. It was announced when Dubai's ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, unveiled plans for the Mall of the World, a 48 million square foot mall of the world. This miniature city will have a retractable dome and will not only serve as a massive pedestrian mall, but will contain hotels and apartments, along with roads and parks. The massive structure will more than double the size of Monaco. The idea starts to make sense when you consider Dubai can reach temperatures of 115 degrees Fahrenheit regularly. But the idea begins to make less sense again when you consider the cost. The cost has not yet been determined officially, but estimates have been made in the tens of billions of dollars. And keep in mind, the price tag would be much higher if the workers were not dreadfully underpaid. The dome is planned to have 100 hotels and serviced apartments, totaling 20,000 rooms. It seems an audacious architectural feat. We've never known Dubai to aspire for anything less. Due to the speed at which Dubai has been growing, it never developed a standard address system. In fact, until 2015, instead of an address line on a mailing label, there was a space where residents could draw a map or write out specific instructions. Thankfully, they have established 10-digit numbers that serve as addresses, and I'm sure it's a whole lot easier to be a delivery driver in Dubai nowadays. So, that's Dubai for you. Oh, and I completely forgot. To top it all off, the mega-rich residents that live in Dubai don't send an ounce of their paycheck to the government. In Dubai, there is no income tax. Yet another feature that makes Dubai one of the most attractive places to stay on the planet. That's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As always, I'm Mr. Luxury. Pip pip to doodly do.